wesn.
Knowing how to tell authentic is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Find it, match it, search it. Step 1. Find the style number on the tag. Step 2. Match the style number inside the jersey with the number on the tag. Step 3. Search it. A quick Google search of the style number will verify the jersey is authentic when the search results match the jersey being searched. Don't be fooled by counterfeit jerseys. Before you buy, remember to find it, match it, search it.
Fan Zone, 2 locations nationwide. Center City Mall, Chaguanas and Movie Town, Port of Spain. Nationwide delivery available.
wesn.
Hello, Trinidad and Tobago, and welcome to Breakthrough, right here on WESN Content Capital. I am your host, Mark Anthony Peter, and joining me on the Breakthrough table, as per usual, is my co-host, Mr. Sean Michael Small. Good morning, Sean.
Good morning, Mark. You're claiming possession of my co-hostness.
Yes, of course, my co-host. Not well. Possession is such a strong. Like, why you have to use that word? It's such a
my
strong
co-host.
word.
It's like I am no longer a person. Apparently, I am but a co-host.
It was really just a little blunder. I don't know why I accented on.
No, you don't say it's a little blunder. I'm being sarcastic, and now you're like adding fuel to the fire to crucify yourself. Like that's not. No, that's not how this works.
I don't like the word.
Oh my gosh, you fall so easy, man. Like how are you gonna get by in life? All it takes is one semi-proficient scam artist, and he'll get the shit off your back in no time.
No. I have good instincts. I think I'd like to think that I have good instincts with certain things. It's just like I feel too comfortable around friends, so that's why I let my guard down. But then again, I'm on television, so I cannot let my guard down in some of these cases.
Yeah, it is. And you would think, oh my gosh, our topics here on Breakthrough are so much lighter, it's easier, you know? What's the worst that could happen? I don't have to worry nearly as much about consequences in this space as you would, because I am not active in this space.
Okay, fair. But you're active in this
Yeah,
space.
but at the end of the day, this is a niche of a wider space of which my main work is in another niche, although it is the main niche of our industry locally, but it's still technically a niche. And then I also inhabit a further niche of a niche, because I inhabit a niche of the sports niche. Okay, so, you know, it's...
Look at you.
Yeah, I'm multi-niched.
Multi-niche.
I'm multi-niche.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. I've never seen this jacket before.
This is the problem. You just don't remember.
Do you wear this jacket often?
No, but I'm pretty sure within, a year and a half, I would have worn this at least once in your presence.
Once.
Between Breakthrough and Talking Point, Mr. Peters.
There's no S after my name.
Mr. Peter.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Mr. First name, last name.
Remember, I have 4 first names, but we wouldn't get into that.
Your parents just couldn't figure it out, right? They couldn't decide which one.
Well, I mean,
so they just like threw 4 darts at the board.
So actually, fun fact. So, well, obviously my dad's last name is also Peter, but my brother is the one that named me Mark Anthony, and he was 6 at the time.
Wow.
He was like, let's name him Mark Anthony, and they were like, okay. So that's how I ended up with
while the results aren't bad, it's one of those things where looking back, you're like, the whim of a 6-year-old.
Of course. And
it could have been worse.
it could have been worse. And I will say my brother is one of the smartest people. You and my brother are actually quite similar. But no, I
have never met your brother.
No, you've not, because he stays out of
everything,
all things that I do. Because he's business computing, so he's in his own information.
In his own niche.
He's in his own niche. Yes,
right,
he's in the information technology sort of niche there. But no, I am surprised that I noticed it, because as I realized, remember I had an issue with wearing.
Yes, the same thing.
Yeah, I no longer care.
Really?
I do.
I need more observation to believe that. I think now, in the brain of Mark Anthony Peter, now I no longer care today, and then next week it could be, those intrusive thoughts could come back again.
Right. But listen, not in this economy.
Well, you know what? Let's get to something a little bit more serious before we get into the topic you want to speak about.
Right.
Because I pointed out to you, right? So the budget, the Prime Minister said, is coming out early October.
Right.
And one of the areas that our business chamber spoke about was the creative industry. Now, of course, when you think creative industry, you think performing arts, art, as in painting, sculpting, and the light craft, visual arts, visual video production, and perhaps even, well, of course, performing arts is music and theater, but then, of course, perhaps even graphic design. They also included, and since you brought up wardrobe, they also included fashion design.
Yes, for sure.
So first on that, because I did speak a bit more about that earlier today on Talking Point, whereas I think, I don't know, maybe the economics isn't there, because it's hard for us to compete with the large-scale mass production you might find in certain places that may or may not be sweatshops. We don't know. But the point is, we're spending potentially a lot of money on foreign designs, whereas we've had people graduate the programs from the various universities in fashion design for a while now. And there are instances of individuals who have designed their own clothes, worn their own clothes. I know of one of our former guests, Rachel Nathaniel, one of her friends or acquaintances, when I met him, he was wearing T-shirts that he designed himself, right? And others. And one of the things that I kind of was wondering, we wear so much foreign clothes. What is the local clothes? And I don't just mean the runway stuff and the high-end fashion. I'm talking about everyday T-shirts, everyday pants. We'll wear Indian garb or African garb, sometimes culturally, sometimes because it's whoever's identity, right? Toned down versions of it for day-to-day, everyday living, depending. Versions of Arabic, Middle Eastern wear.
People get to choose what they want.
But where's our local branded T-shirts? Just T-shirts. Not even going to jeans or track pants, right?
So essentially, I mean, what you're sort of describing is what is called the sort of the orange economy, right? And the orange economy has to do with a lot of the creative sectors. It's, as I said, film, music, design. It also includes publishing, right? It also includes software development and that sort of thing, right? Anything that is creative. It needs to, some may say the creative industry kind of needs to tap into the orange economy. And I remember there was a blog posted by someone from Film TT, I believe it was, and I think it was the future is orange, right? And it was asking, the blog post was kind of calling for, we need more investments, we need more infrastructure into the industry, we need more education and training. And I could agree with all of those things, right? The issues that I'm seeing are a little bit, are kind of multifaceted, where there isn't a one size fits all kind of approach, and there isn't a one fix for everything, right?
You're talking about the different aspects of the creative.
Yeah, the different aspects
because they're all very different.
They're all very different, right? You can't, the same way you make a judgment on music, you can't judge software development the same way, right?
Yeah.
Right? There's only two that's on either side of the spectrum, right? But you can't judge those things the same way. So therefore, it's hard to manage, and it's hard to sort of, it's difficult to manage, and it's difficult to sort of.
Well, should they be managed as
govern.
all in one? As much as we would group it as all in one, and they have similarities?
No, we could probably try managing them individually. Some of the issues that come up though, yes, we know at least in the economy right now, the state of corporate sponsorship and corporate funding is kind of in a rocky place right now. The case of government funding is also in a rocky place right now. We have a lot, and it's a point that we always talk about. The industry itself is young, but I'll say the stakeholders are getting more and more educated, more and more trained, to the point where the industry kind of it's difficult to catch up, where we kind of have to either improve the current industry or almost we're like creating a new version of the industry type of thing, right? So with that, there are also situations where there are a lot of people who do great work, but they're not necessarily trained, right? But they have great experience, they have a good creative eye, right? They're really, really good at what they do. And then there are people who, again, don't have the training, they get hired for the things, and then but their work is sort of, from the perspective of a trained person, is sort of subpar, right? And mediocre. Yeah. Because there was a time we needed to hire a graphic designer for ads, for flyers, that sort of thing, right? Now it's with the dawn of certain easy to use softwares that already come with like templates, like built-in templates that you can just slightly adjust. Now everybody could do a flyer. Right, so now that sort of takes away a job from someone, right? There's also with the rise of artificial intelligence, you know, there's literally channels on YouTube where they take like Celine Dion's voice or somebody else's voice, and it's a duet between. I got caught. I was like, oh, Celine Dion and Rihanna did a duet. I didn't know that, and then I saw it. I was like, oh, this is AI. This is not real.
I have seen an ad on social media. I think it might be Facebook or Instagram or whatever, but the point is, two of them made to look like Newsday articles. Now, I'm not sure if Newsday did the ad, but they didn't. It wasn't an ad for Newsday, it was an ad for Bitcoin and something else.
On that note, there was also something that I saw that that was AI that used an anchor from a television station, right? Locally.
Right.
Yeah. And then when I saw the page up, I was like, this is a random guy with name. I was like, so it wasn't attached to the actual station. So when I saw it, I was like, oh, advertising something else. So taking that image, that video of the anchor behind the chair, behind the table with the regular backdrop that they have and advertising something. So now I'm like, oh, now anybody could be manipulated. Now anything could be manipulated. Yes. Potentially, right. So there are a lot of factors that can diminish the industry in ways. At the end of the day, though, there is nothing like getting, and maybe we need to go through a rough patch for people to understand this, but there's nothing like getting something real from a real person, right? There's nothing like getting a well thought out flyer for your concert or a well thought out sort of ad for your brand, for whatever, from a human being that knows what they're doing and is well executed.
Because you could say this, not everybody has the privilege of always playing with a grand piano. Right? Most people use keyboards. But there was a time in the 80s when synthetic sounds was all the rage in pop music, and then it stopped. Like, I remember at one point, you would see a lot of these synthetic drum kits, right? Now, I can't tell you the last time I've actually seen that in use. Yes, you might get a DJ or a producer with like a machine, right? But for the most part, there was a wave of getting acoustic back. I think MTV or VH1 did the Unplugged series. They even had Jay-Z do his singles in an unplugged setting, which was...
Right here in Trinidad, we had a wave of things in like the 2015 to 17, 18 sort of something. There was this show, this series, Uncovered, which was which was acoustic versions of soca songs.
Right.
Right. And then other people had the different like unplugged sort of things at Cafe Blue, at this venue and that venue.
Yeah,
So
because
those things
at
sort
the
of
end of
came
the day,
back.
you could have AI to go on the internet and to do your ads, your digital,
Right.
your broadcast, your what have you.
Right.
But to say that you're going to have AI to do a live performance, that's not a thing. And I think also at some point, once people get used to it, because it's the novelty. It's like CD. Look at CD. It's high quality. Well, it's consistent, yes. But science says the acoustic waveforms from a CD are not the same as vinyl. So then eventually people start to take it. Yeah, it's because the waveform essentially is a set of right angles. So it's like steps. Instead of a wave, that's a curve, right? It moves like steps. Now, the more information you could have to digitize the music, the smaller the steps could be, so the closer it emulates a curve, right? But at the end of the day, there is a certain aspect of the sound that you will lose digitizing it.
Yes,
You know?
I could agree with that. But as you mentioned, CDs and vinyls, like we used to pay for CDs, we used to buy albums, we used to buy vinyls.
And the thing is, vinyl now, it's niche,
It's-
but it's still around
It's
for
also
that reason.
it's also coming
I
back.
think also it goes back to what Christopher Nolan says about film versus digital. It's the same thing. Yes, you will have a certain level of consistency and detail, but it's also digital. So there are kind of limitations to the look of digital. As sharp as it looks and as great as it looks, there's something cinematic about film, which is why you could go back to a film from the 1970s, 1980s, 1990s and be like, this looks great. And when you have some high production movie now, you know, it might look great, but it looks in a way cheap.
Yeah. I actually noticed some of the, because a lot of them, I feel like they've gone way too far with the CGI. I feel like they've gone way too far with certain things, and everything just looks extra polished.
Yes.
And it to the point
Very
where
bright.
it's very bright. It almost look like a bunch of Barbie dolls just existing. It's like it looks too perfect in a way. And I kind of like, it takes away the realness from it, so then they can't connect it.
This segues all to come back to the point locally. Corporations might want to make things out dollars and cents and cut costs as much as possible, which is usually one of the downfalls of the creative industry.
Right.
Oh, it only took you 2 hours to do this, well, we only pay you for 2 hours. Meanwhile, that might be the best graphics designer in the Western Hemisphere. And what he could do in 2 hours, it will take somebody 60 hours to replicate. Would you rather pay the lesser person for the 60 hours? Right? So how things are compensated and how they're interpreted by corporations and what's fair compensation, all of that is a question. But also, I have a hard time thinking that we could plug and play and try to get local content, true local content out of AI.
Absolutely not.
Because AI could probably replicate it. But like at some point, there will be just a
There'll be
certain
blunders.
something.
There'll be faults. There'll be blunders.
Not just that, but
Because at the end of it, I know what you're trying to say, but at the end of it, it's digitally created. It's created by a machine, so therefore there's no human connection to it.
right, because listen, I knew the story behind Kanye West Through the Wire. But I saw Pharrell's reaction when he realized Kanye West rapped a song Through the Wire, right? The opening lines basically speaks about the fact that he was in an accident and he has to like feed through a tube or whatever. Pharrell didn't realize Kanye's mouth was wired shut while he rapped that song. He was literally rapping about what he was going through in that moment, right? And it just blew his mind because it was that personal to Kanye's human experience right then and there. And some of the best stuff we have, some of the best stuff we have locally, there is that level. I think you could argue Marshall is very well produced and very commercial, but on some level, there is something behind in his spirit, behind everything he does. Same thing with Kess, right? Like at some point, if he was faking it, we'll figure it out by now. It can't be fake.
At the end of it, it's a human being, and there's a soul, and within that soul, there's a story to be told, and with that story, there are inflections. With that story, there is emotion. With that story, there are things that they have trouble saying, so they have to use their lyrics, they have to use their voice to do it. In that case, like, when things are so easily done and so digitized, it takes away. So there's, I can't remember her name, and I'm upset that I can't remember it. There's a jazz singer that was saying, you know, I know what it's like to have to sing the entire album live because we have to record the entire album live. And then there's another artist that, it's a clip that went viral where like every word was a different take.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's, it was like 84 comps in the entire thing. And I'm like, now if that's what you want to do, fine. But as a human being and as an artist, I want the more real, because then that builds.
You can't do it live. And
exactly.
First of all, for musical acts, it's not a good chunk of their money now, the touring. You know, that's why Taylor Swift did the Eras tour. That's why 50 Cent wants Eminem to tour. That's why so many rock bands from the 50s and 60s and 70s, maybe not the 50s, but definitely the 80s.
For sure, but then it becomes this thing of, you want to cut costs. So if it is that the music can be digitally produced and I could just pay the recorder for an entire day and we take multiple takes, that's fine. But when it's live, you're paying the artist now has to play the live musicians.
You see,
and everything.
there's a difference
but the benefit of that is skill.
There's a difference between, it's fine for you to have multiple takes. You having to chop up single words, that is a bridge too far, because that implies you'll never be able to come close. Yes, studio recordings are going to be more perfect than most live singers,
right?
With some exceptions, like Bruno Mars, Celine Dion, to some extent Beyonce, John Legend, right? Singers like that, Adele, singers like that, obviously live, it might be just as good as the recording, right? But even they themselves are not 100% of the time going to be 100% live perfect. I'll say live perfect, not perfect.
Could you imagine? Never never mind. I'll find someone like you, like each Adele song, like each one. Like
that sounds like a bad old AI, old kind of chop up. You take someone.
But again, so on the go ahead.
So for the interest of time. There is that whole thing now challenging the creative industry.
Right.
Back to the genesis.
To the
budget. How far could the industry really contribute to the wide economy? Because we've talked about it before. It's now starting to really get professional.
Yes.
It's not amateur with people who do it on the side.
I'll be more specific, professional with training.
So professional with training, that's widespread.
Right,
because obviously for soca, most of those people were professionals, right?
Yes.
But for most other genres, it was in a weird in-between space.
Yes.
So now there's training as well as the industry is starting to come up.
Yeah.
I think it would be premature to think, because they're talking about revenue figures like 5.3 million. If we're talking about national GDP scale, a couple million here or there ain't really moving the needle. And not really moving the needle for the creative industry anyway, as a whole, right? It needs more revenue to really cement itself as an industry. It needs to be a lot bigger than just that.
The thing is, and I keep coming back, I know you're talking about the industry side. It keeps in my head. I keep coming back to marketing, right? And marketing to me has always been this thing where you don't figure it out until you don't know what it is until you figure it out, right? There's no like real formula. There's no like real sort of thing that you could roadmap that you can follow.
Is it that you have to figure out what works for whatever you're doing, because whatever you're doing might not work for someone else?
Right. So you have to figure out. So let's compare the marketing for film and the marketing for music. Right. They will be different, right? You have to go to different.
Yeah, I have no idea how you market for music at all.
Right. But so then you have to. So you can't compare the two. So you find somebody within your industry to sort of. So you find another. A group organization or an artist and say, how are they marketing themselves? But I'm not doing their genre of music. Okay, so how do I market myself? Okay, so I try to find somebody else that does my genre of music. Oh, but I'm not doing it quite like that. I'm doing it a different. So, that it keeps coming down, and that's why it always feels like, it's something that you don't figure out until you actually figure it out. It requires a lot of blunders, right? One thing that I have seen though, nothing beats, especially if you're doing a concert, nothing beats the going door to door.
Right.
And when I say door to door, I don't mean like actually knocking on people's like that's.
No, but a personal word of mouth.
Exactly. That sort of thing. Be like, go to a friend, be like, hey, I have a concert, I really want to sell some of these tickets. Can you help me? Do you know people? So it requires that sort of work. That's how, like, that guarantees that. I remember when I started teaching on having my private classes, I put an ad, there was an ad on a very, very big platform. And I did not get any students. The students that I got were actually word of mouth, parents,
referrals,
right? Referrals, right? So that is where that's what I've seen. That is where you have to start, right? Once that happens, then people start to know you, and then then you don't necessarily need to go door to door. Then people will catch up with you. They follow you on social media. They're like, I'll keep in touch whenever you're having a next concert, that sort of thing, right? That's what I've seen so far, right? But at the beginning stages, it's very, very difficult, and if you're doing it by yourself, it's even more difficult.
What's interesting is you're talking about leveraging personal connections, right? And to some extent, even modern day pop stars, their personality is as important, which has kind of always been the case, right?
That is why when Demi Lovato showed up at the Jonas Brothers concert, everybody went wild because Joe Jonas, they sang the camp rock songs that we all loved. And then just, don't look at me like that.
I never really watched camp rock.
Don't look at me like that. That's why, and then when they brought on Jesse McCartney to sing Beautiful Soul, and everybody went wild, they're like, oh my God.
Because it's a certain demographic.
Exactly.
But
personal connection.
But the point I'm making is, because you reminded me, Natal Dockwell said, locally people are more interested perhaps, or more willing to support, more inclined to support charity concerts to help raise funds for something or someone than a professional concert, right?
Yes.
And there was, I'm not going to necessarily say who and what and why, but there was a charity concert that did not go well recently.
Right.
And we don't know if it was marketed well. We don't know what the word of mouth, how far the reach was. We don't know. We really don't know, right? But the point is, there was the fact that even in charity cases, and this was a medical charity for someone that needed help, it's not guaranteed. I will say that to get the word out, to distribute, like, say, this is my product, this is what I could do, come to me to buy this. We're not very good at it. You know, even the government police service, to get relevant information, they'll put it out on social media. They'll have ads. It's not spreading far enough. So then now you have an industry. It's not like you're selling soap. It's not like you're selling water. It's not like you're selling food.
It's not,
right? It's not
tangible. You can't touch it.
And you don't need it every day.
Yeah.
So you're not looking for it every day.
Yeah.
Right? You're not seeking it out. And a lot of people probably assume it doesn't exist. Right? There are a lot of artistic endeavors that happen that we just don't hear about, we don't know about, and we would probably assume we don't have that here.
Well, you see, this is the thing, that is a huge, huge assumption. And just as we wrap up there, I would say on the artist side, Mark, try to expand beyond just locally. Because you can be one of those artists that goes back and forth.
Well, I will say this though, the flip side of that is, some of the thing is, have we gotten to the point, yes, I know there's more training and there's more professionalism, but is it professional enough in some cases to command certain prices? Yes, maybe the classical singers are professional enough.
You can, regardless of genre, because there are a lot of people.
No, but different genres demand different things.
Right, but I think people can. The problem that we have here, and we see it happen, you don't get the respect until you earn the respect outside. It's only when you go outside, then people are like, oh.
But you know what's funny? Because I think, I can't remember which reggae artist this was. It wasn't one of the older ones, but he's old enough, right? So it might have been one of the new ones in my time or just after me, right? He said he goes to, I think it was either Europe. So I don't know if he had a specific point in Europe. He goes there and he plays a crowd of 100,000 because the UK and Europe reggae music is a lot bigger there than in the States. But my point is this, with the exception of maybe Marshall, who did, was it Madison Square Garden? I think it was, right? Okay, maybe he and Kes could do the Oval, right? But how many artists might actually go abroad and do big shows, but they can't do big shows here?
Right, yeah.
Right?
Are
the reggae artists doing 100,000 in Jamaica regular?
I don't know.
I know the population.
I don't know that. I don't have those facts. But no, it's a good point. And just as we wrap up this segment, you know, it's something that we have to also respect ourselves as artists. And the industry needs to grow. The industry needs to grow. It needs to have a little bit more funding behind it, more infrastructure. It's very difficult. Like you said, we're not selling soap. We're selling something that it's
a
not
luxury.
In a way, but it's tangible. But we realized that it was our saving grace during the pandemic.
This is why I
right?
said I focused on something like everyday casual wear.
Right.
That's something which is a little more.
Well, we have that happening. You know, it's just it's
Time?
not out there as much. It's not out there as much. But anyway, so we're gonna take a quick break, and then when we get back, we're gonna go into this topic of discussion. This is Breakthrough. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Claudette, radiographer at the radiology departments at the community hospital. We offer high-quality service with state-of-the-art equipment in X-ray, ultrasound, CT, and mammogram. Come, our friendly staff awaits you.
Give us a call at 235-5479.
The Community Hospital of Seventh-day Adventist,
Where good private health care is affordable.
Struggling with heart health or frequent migraines? Discover the simple steps to reclaim your energy and vitality.
We're diving into a topic that affects about 422 million people around the world. Diabetes.
Tune into Wellness Unlocked, the series that delivers expert advice, practical tips, and inspiring stories to help you take control of your health and well-being. Your health matters. Don't miss Wellness Unlocked. Watch now on WESN and take the first step toward better health.
Bill and Ruth fell in love with the Benjamin Moore color Dry Sage, but they tried to match it using another brand's paint.
I mean, it's close enough.
Almost identical, really. Yeah, there it is.
Never trust another paint to be a Benjamin Moore color.
Remember waking up early just to catch your favorite cartoons? WESN brings back those magical mornings with Retro Saturdays.
Thus, the Powerpuff Girls were born!
Where the young at heart relive the fun. Join us every Saturday from 8 a.m. to 12 noon, only on WESN, the content capital.
Welcome back to Breakthrough Trinidad and Tobago, ladies and gentlemen. Right here on WESN Content Capital. Your host, Mark Anthony Peter, co-host Sean Michael Small, and we're about to get into our backstage discussion of this morning. So I came across this post. We've always had conversations about community and how important community is,
Yes.
and why community is so important in the artistic and creative space, right? Sometimes you go from community to community. Sometimes you go from experience to experience, and the experience may be absolutely great, and then there may be some things that aren't so great, right?
Just so the audience can understand, think of any creative celebrity that you like, especially musicians, and just if you study the history, how many of them have been in multiple groups?
Yeah,
may have had the thing that made them famous break up. In some cases, they have had potentially more than one career because the first group break up and they join another group. The guitarist Slash comes to mind. I can't remember. Was it not Poison? But it might have been Poison. He was in one big band. Then he was in other projects, and he joined Velvet Revolver. That blew up in the late 90s, early 2000s, for however long that lasted. Like, Sting was in a band that was famous, and he had his own career where he was famous.
So yeah, so you know, there are a lot of different experiences that people go through, and I mean, we even had some of my experiences play out here on this show when we had Sule.
And we're gonna get more of it now again.
Get more of it, right? And Sule basically said, you know, past experiences tend to dictate future behaviors, right?
Yes.
And sometimes when you go into a new space, into a new community, you have some wounds, right? And the post is entitled "All Wounds in New Spaces." You know, why past harm can shape how we show up in community.
In local parlance, you're toting feelings. You're not a banker.
It's that's so oversimplistic. That's like toting, like
yeah, but to give people like a starting point.
Okay, sure. I'll accept that for
living
now.
in the past. That's another way to put it.
Okay, sure.
Living in the past.
Right, and the post went on to say, you know, sometimes we carry old wounds into new spaces, even when the space hasn't harmed us. Right, and it can look like assuming you'll be left out before it happens, expecting conflict where there isn't any, seeing feedback as attack, or withdrawing to protect yourself, testing the space to see if it'll hurt you, sabotaging your own belonging.
Okay, and you said,
and I said
that these three were the three that you've experienced.
Because withdrawing, not testing the space, but I would say just sort of not fully engage. I would adjust that for me, not fully engaging in the space. It's almost like when the pool is like you're going into and you dip your toe, sort of thing.
Perhaps it's semantics, right?
Yeah.
It's not like I'm going to conduct an experiment to see if you hit me.
I'm not setting up situations.
But you are dipping your finger in the pot to see if it's hot, right?
Which in a way is testing the waters in a way, right? And then sabotaging your own belongings. So from one community space that I've been to another, there was a period where my career sort of took some drastic changes. I'm also still going through some drastic changes right now. But I left a space, and it was a great space. I enjoyed it. There were a lot of things that I enjoyed. It's only when I got into some new spaces that I realized that there were some things that I took, some old wounds from that old space that I took into it that had me questioning whether or not, sabotaging my own belonging, where I started questioning whether or not I belong in this space, questioning my own skills, my own talent, what I bring to the table, my own worth, right? Thinking that if I had a bad issue with authority before, thinking all figures of authority are out to get me, right? Thinking that maybe there is a difference between, because I never experienced that in my tertiary training, right? So I already had a view of, yes, the lecturers, they're going to look out for you. But that's in the context of tertiary, of university. When it comes to community spaces, that's sort of amateurish, non-professional, then my brain sort of started putting all of them into a box, and maybe they all sort of behave the same, which is absolutely not true. They're not. They're actually really, really good people out here that will look out for you. But you know, it's an old wound that I brought into a new space, and I remember having a conversation with somebody, and I said, you know, I don't know if I'm cut out to doing this. And they were so shocked. They're like, but you do these things that you do with such ease. And I'm like, yes, but within my mind, there is also a sense of, it didn't quite work out the first time. Maybe the first time was just experience, as we millennials tend to say, character development. By the way, my character is well developed. Thank you very much. But
it's quite character. It's quite character indeed.
Wow. But yeah, so so when that person said that to me, I said, sure, but there are some things that I kind of went through that you don't even know about, that other people, when I say not you, but that person didn't even know about, that other people don't know about, that I observed myself, and that some hits that I took. And so it becomes a little bit scary, where it's like, oh, I don't really have anybody at the top looking out for me, in a sense. That was my experience.
So the thing is, to some extent, we're probably better equipped with regards to people who teach to have some amount of training on what is appropriate or not, how to do their job, right? Both in the creative industries, which is now really stepping out of their amateur background, community background, into more and more professionalism, but it's still not like fully professional really, outside of some unique cases, right? As well as the professional business private sector. So it's not just because it's the artistic community has an amateur background. We are the same point that the artistic community is getting more professional training, at least in regards to performance skills and musical skills, artistic skills. The business community also, yes, they had certain technical skills, but a lot of people in the business world really lacked formal training. But the key thing is, one of the formal skills in the business world is things like management and dealing with human social interactions on a professional level. And one of the things maybe that the artistic community will eventually have to catch up on, because any field could use management training. You could be a doctor. You would do well to have some amount of management training, because if you want to have your own practice, so even if you are a doctor in Mount Hope or whatever, you still need to be able to manage people and lead people and the like. And there is a lacking in the private sector. So it's not something unique to the arts, but it's something that I've seen, that you kind of do what you think is best, but it's based on your personal experiences. But personal experiences are not always the correct experience to apply in a somewhat professional setting.
Yeah, because
right?
I mean, even so, to your point of having management training, I mean, even to artists, an artist that's not a full-time sort of teacher or in a full-time paid situation, you do contract work, right? So you are the business, so you sort of have to manage your own self. And you have to be the manager, you have to be the HR person as well for your own self when you're dealing with other people, right? On that note, on that point that you just made, it's a singular experience that you've had in your life, and in order to judge, let's say you're in charge of a bunch of people or in charge of a bunch of
yeah, it could be a band, it could be a production team.
Correct. You sort of need, there is some level of experience and training that your singular life experience may not always prepare you for, right? That's why it's always good to have a good team. Right, and more than just a team is not just numbers. A team is also numbers that know what they're doing, numbers that are skilled, numbers that are talented, numbers that will.
I think you're missing a key point though.
What's that?
That also know how to work together.
That also, yes, okay, that's very good. That's very good. A team that also knows how to work together.
No matter how talented you are, if you're going in two directions.
A team that will also know how to come to a decision even though perspectives are different. A team that will know that it's safe to say no, and how do we move forward from there, right? There's a lot of things that are involved, and these are things that within the past few years that I'm starting to learn myself, because I am, as we know, I'm always wanting to be in control, but I can't, right? And so, yeah.
Now, the business community could learn things from being more collaborative and stuff. But if they fail in those areas, they could still get by, because it's just the way how it is. People kind of tolerate certain things and have different expectations. For the artistic community, particularly locally, first of all, it's not known. People don't have preconceived notions of what the expectations are. And then because a lot of people at some point or the other see themselves as individual artists, there's the temptation of, well, I should just go my own way. Now, if you're a bank teller, you can't just say, I'm going to go my own way and be a bank teller on my own, right? You need to get a job in another bank.
You actually have to work for a bank in order for that to happen.
But if you're a guitarist, you could say, I don't like this band, I'm just going to try and join another band, or just be a freelance guitarist, right? Be a studio session guitarist if you're in the States or what have you. And I think it's a different thing, and I wonder to what extent is the industry now potentially going to be held back if too many people are not able to figure things out on a professional level, so the social interaction is unprofessional. And then you end up with a lot of people in the industry, sabotaging their own belonging, withdrawing to protect themselves, and more importantly, things like expecting conflict where there isn't any.
Yeah.
Because how often do you, there's a lot of stories in your personal life, you hear it from friends, you hear it on the internet, somebody comes in and they feel attacked, and to everybody else, it's unreasonable. But it's like, well, we don't necessarily know what the experience was like before.
And it's a point that I've made on talking about before, you know, the familiar dysfunction. If you come from a space where dysfunction is the norm, function is going to feel like a threat.
Right.
Function is going to feel weird. It's going to feel like this is new, and so you go into self-defense mode, right? Then you're like, oh, you'll actually air out your issues here, and then we're all fine afterwards. Like nobody's passive aggressive after, nobody's upset, nobody's treating people differently. Like how do you all do that? One of the things that I've had to learn is actually just talking to people, and like it's really so difficult, and it's a young millennial issue and an old Gen Z sort of issue where
it's an everybody issue in my opinion.
Okay, where being honest about and having the hard conversations is very, very difficult, and for somebody who's very sensitive, emotionally sensitive, it could be very debilitating for them in that experience.
And you see this in the business world in part because it's the project, and you put a lot of effort and creativity into the project and a lot of personal time into the project, so you get protective of your project. But it's even more obvious in art because it's not just a project. The project is directly tied to you in a lot of cases, is directly and singularly tied to your livelihood. It's not just a part of your job. It is almost your entire job. And it's part of your personality. It might be almost your entire personality. It might be your entire being out there for the world to judge.
Yes, your entire being.
So then the sensitivity
the sensitivity is there because anything that seems to threaten the project, you take it personally. You think it as a threat to yourself, but then you have to. And one of my mentors used to tell me this. You know, as much as the idea is a part of you, you kind of have to let it go. Let it go in the sense of detach from it, because if it's meant to happen, it will happen. And once you have the right team and the right intentions going into it, it will happen. And it will happen for the right reasons. But the process of making it happen, there are a lot of ups and downs. And it can be directly related to your emotional state where you go up and down with the process. Because then you won't be in a level state to actually deal with issues when they arise. And then, because I would say even for me, I'm always looking for the next shoe to drop. Mm-hmm. So then when things are great, I actually don't celebrate. I don't get a chance to celebrate.
Because you don't know.
Because you don't know what's going to happen next.
Not just that, but you also you're not accustomed to celebrating to some extent?
In a way, yes, but I'm also, in my brain, celebration is easy. Dealing with issues is a little bit harder. So it's almost like you're conserving your energy, well, without realizing that no, the celebration actually is going to fuel you in order to make the issues and the problems worth dealing with.
Because in the NFL, there's something interesting where they have some coaches who have a reputation of being hard-nosed, serious coaches, right? Bill Belichick, one of them, and he has at times called out his players in meetings, and it's like, look, your teammate just scored, right? Why are y'all just acting as if nothing happened? Celebrate a little, because he recognized psychologically, if y'all don't recognize the achievements and enjoy the achievements and emotion of doing something great, psychologically, it's going to be a beatdown if all we do is just, okay, what's the next problem? Okay, on to the next issue. Okay, damage control, minimize mistakes.
You're always in defense mode.
Always in defense mode.
And those sort of things, as I've learned recently, those sort of things eventually do catch up to you. And when they do catch up to you, it's not, those bad habits, they do catch up to you.
Is it surprising to you? Because I think indirectly it was surprising to me how inept so many people are. From many older heads down to people your own age, but especially people older than you, with regards to dealing directly with issues in a constructive way. Because there are some people who are willing to talk about an issue.
Right.
But it's not always the best way.
It's not. I have to say this very carefully because I don't want to leave room for any implications. When not talking about issues is the norm, it's not surprising when adults don't do it.
Right, when adults don't talk.
When adults don't talk, it's not surprising because you're sort of used to it. The surprising thing is how easy talking about issues actually is. Once you have the certain skills to have the conversation, once you try not to take things personally.
That's the point I was going to make. A lot of times when you try to do it, it's a combination of people don't have the skills when they talk to talk, and people don't have the skills to receive what is the pertinent message to be received.
Yes.
And then, at the end of the exercise, nothing happens. You know what I'm talking about.
Yes, I do.
Right?
So,
but my point is, that's not unique to any one organization. You could experience that in a lot of different areas.
Yeah.
Because it's just the exercise, the emotional hurdle of talking it out.
Well, let's go back to childhood. Let's go back to childhood, especially for...
But let me just finish this.
Go ahead.
Just the emotional hurdle to talk it out, it's almost like if that expends everything most people have, and the implementation falls short after.
Here's why, because... And we've had this discussion before. When children, I'll say the millennial generation, when we were young, when we were children, we were seen and not heard. In a way of, right? In a way of, don't engage with us, big people are talking, you have nothing to contribute, right?
Now that seems to be like culturally beyond the Caribbean, if that makes sense.
Yes, right?
Yeah.
So then it becomes, oh, my voice doesn't matter. And then on the few times that I do speak my mind, in a respectful way actually, but because your ego is threatened as the parent, and it seems like the child knows more than you in this singular one instance, the response is, and it's like, it's I'm not going to do it again. But I'm not going to do it again. But the response is, you don't know what to talk about. The response is negative. And it's not just negative, it's negative with a lot of energy.
I'll do you one better. People whose parents are still alive, they ever ask you to do something for them because they don't know how to do it, and when you start to do the thing that they ask you to do, that they don't know how to do, that's why they ask you to do it, they start to give you instructions on the things that they don't know, that's why they ask you to do it. Do it this way. I thought you didn't know how to do it. I don't
Coming back. Oh, you okay?
No, it's just the logic doesn't compute.
I understand.
Listen, when I ask someone to do something, and this is an example I always use because this is actually very practical in a very minor way. When someone is going somewhere and I ask them to get me something, like if it's at the supermarket or to get something to eat.
Right.
If I went to Subway, I might have. I do like to simplify my order, right? But I might have more complex scenarios than if somebody else goes to Subway for me, or if somebody else goes to buy a bacon truck for me, if somebody else goes to wherever, get a gyro for me, right? If it is something simple like put ketchup on pepper sauce, that's it. But not put ketchup on the side and then put a little drop of pepper sauce in the middle and then make sure to only put mustard on the fries. No, I don't do that. Because when I ask them to do something, to some extent, I have to, similar to you have to let your music go, you have to let the responsibility go with them or whatever they bring back for you unless they buy the absolute wrong thing. Right. You know, it is what it is.
So at the end of, and you bring up a good point. At the end of the day, it's the habits that we learn. It's the habits that were taught to us. And so when it no longer became safe for the child to actually speak their mind, the norm becomes defense. The norm becomes staying in, and so anything that talking is a problem out of fear of what the reaction will be.
So let's go now to artistic collaboration. Right? It's one thing for a painter to say, what if we use this paint? And then the interior designer and the contractor and the homeowner, and we could all look at swatches and put samples on the wall and all of that. When it comes time to put in an artistic project together, half the time, you had a make-up language to describe certain things because there is no actual formal language for certain things, right? Pop music will have new innovations that will make up new terms, you know, like the song structures evolve over time, the lyrical content.
So if it's a case of people in the room are of different artistic sort of skill levels, if it's because I've experienced that, but if it's like a bunch of people from the same, you tend to have the same language. I know what you're talking about, but I've experienced this with different sort of skilled people being at the head
because at the end of the day,
try to describe something musically to me. And
because at the end of the day, if you all are within the realms of, look at it this way, if you all are of equal experience, and it could be great experience, and you could all speak of the same language, aren't you all still limited by the language?
Yes.
So then new concepts still need to be created, right? So how do you step out now? How do you know how to do that if you're not taught? And this goes back to the education system. We are taught not to think and to lead. We are taught to follow and repeat, right? We are taught to do that for exams, right? And at tertiary level, locally, I know they try to break that, but it's hard.
It's getting harder and harder with the generations.
And then now, here's the funny thing. When you do your entry-level job, you're not paid to think. You're paid to do what you're told. And then the people who are best at doing what they're told get promoted. And then they become in this decision-level superior positions without the capability to do that. I do feel that to some extent, you see ebbs and flows of it, in certain industries because of that, like the film industry right now. I honestly feel some of the senior people in the film industry are probably more, in terms of creatives, followers than leaders. And they could execute someone else's vision, but they might not necessarily have their own vision. And that's why that industry is having some of the problems it has. With regards to our local situation, to what extent do we have people that want to do art, but even some of them don't have a vision. They just want to be a performing artist. And then even the ones that do have a vision, they are now trapped in this, well, I have been socialized and conditioned to not necessarily know how to communicate what I want to do. And then now, the few times that I try to do so, I end up in situations that we started off with. I end up with wounds that will discourage me from trying again. With someone else.
Yeah, because creating, as the post goes on to say, creating or joining new communities does not erase past experiences, but it can create new opportunities and experiences in the present. But the thing is, the new experiences, they're scary.
Yes.
Because it's not the norm that you've experienced. If you've experienced function as the norm, dysfunction it's going to be easier to turn away from dysfunction, right? It's going to be easier to just do what you need to do, right? But the post went on to say a community supports healing when it is clear about what it expects. I didn't realize how much I assumed people were on the same page with me. I did not actually say the words, what I expect. I didn't actually say the words, this is the goal.
Right.
And then I realized, my bad.
Because I was now thinking, there's no such thing as the creative process. It's different for every person and for every project as
well. Yes, so the process itself is different, but the creative process is.
But the point is that to get on the same page, sometimes you need to go through the exercise of this is the page, guys. Can we all be on this? Does anyone have a different page we need to reconcile?
And then the community that supports healing, when it names harm instead of letting it slide, and when it chooses repair over avoidance.
Yeah,
right?
but you know, in TNT, we do a lot of the avoidance thing.
I know. But it's also important that we reflect as members, share our needs, and give things a chance. If you don't feel like the space is safe enough to actually express how you feel, then you actually won't.
So what extent are too many artists,
up to the leader.
Too many artists introverted, and because of that, too many people involved?
Well, but the thing is,
disengage and avoid too much.
Introversion does not necessarily mean that you don't want to engage. Introversion means that you have a preference to staying inside as opposed to being outside.
I know that's, you know, that it's not definitive and limited, but at the end of the day, a lot of people especially those who are introverted and soft-spoken, are unconfrontational. And it's even harder now because when you have a community that's based off of informal relations.
Be associated.
No, you don't think so?
No, because I think introversion and extroversion just tells you how you deal with certain things. It doesn't mean that you can't do it.
Right, but depending over time, it might become laborious to deal with it in an outspoken manner.
The more you do it, the more if you do it, the less you do it, the harder it is to do it each time. But the more you do it, the easier it becomes. So the extrovert could probably bring it up in a casual conversation.
I think you literally just said
the opposite.
Kinda.
Okay.
It's hard to keep track.
The more you do talk about it and the more you are honest, the easier it becomes over time. The less you do it, the harder it will. At the beginning stage, it will be hard, right? I wouldn't even say the more you do it, but the more often you do it. So the less often you do it, it will become harder. But as we wrap up, we support healing when we name our needs, pause before assuming the worst, and allow care to reach us even when it feels unfamiliar. Old wounds do not heal overnight, but with practice, community can become a place where we learn that belonging and care are possible again in the aligned spaces, right? Those are the things that are important. Once we are able to be in a safe space, to say what we need to say, to express how we feel in a respectful manner, and our leaders also need to step up into creating that space and making sure it's okay.
I'll just say, and that's why in certain big budget artistic projects and even low budget local projects, that's why certain people prefer at times to work with the same people because they have a good community. There's a negative side of it as well, but the positive is these are who I trust. Yes, sometimes you're holding people for ransom in a negative connotation, but a lot of times it's I trust these people, so I want to work with them again. And that might come across as nepotism, but it's not always.
It's not always. There are certain reasons. It's not always at the surface level as what we think it is. We have to wrap up.
I know.
All right.
Okay.
Good. It was a wonderful show, ladies and gentlemen. Trinidad and Tobago, thank you so much for joining us on Breakthrough every Monday morning right here on WESN Content Capital. Mark Anthony Peter, Sean Michael Small. Have a wonderful week. Bye-bye.
WESN.